All right, everybody. We're on the corner of East 33rd, 700 block of East 33rd, and Bacchus. And right here on this corner at 701, one of the first black schools here in Independent Heights, and it is James D. Burroughs. 1915, but in 1929, when Houston annexed it, they moved it out of 900 block of East 39th and brought it up here at 701 East 33rd. Now we going up here right now. We on East 33rd, and one of the main drag streets out here in Independent Heights was North Main. North Main, they had nothing but black businesses up and down North Main. Black businesses in the churches. The churches are still here, but the black businesses are gone. Thank God for the churches. Now, one thing about Independent Heights, Independency Heights, is that a lot of, we're going to turn here on North Main here, a lot of businesses and homes were knocked out. Over 200 some homes were knocked out of Independency Heights when they bought in 610 in the early 60s, and they bought in I-45 on the other side. Now, one thing about Independency Heights, they had their own park. That's right, they had their own park before Houston annexed it. And when Houston annexed it in 1929, Houston put it in as a Houston Public Park. And we're turning right here on East 36th Street, where Independency Heights Park is. And as you can see, they used to have a swimming pool out here. They got a baseball diamond out here. And they are trying to promote the Little League baseball out here in Independency Heights. And like I say, this is not Studewood, y'all. So let's stop. This is how we're losing our black history. Okay, all of this is part of Independency Heights. And we're going to turn here on East 35th Street. And we're going to go down East 35th Street to Independency Heights Park. And you will see the name of it is called Independency Park. That's the name of it. And as you can see right there, Independency Park. Independency Heights Park. And there it is right there, Independency Heights Park. Then we're gonna go all the way on down. See, all of this was part of Independency Heights, Texas. And when Houston annexed it in 1929, before then, it was 14 years before Houston annexed this. It was always part of Harris County, but it wasn't part of Houston city limits. So therefore, they didn't have none of the benefits that Houston had, such as a bus line, the public water works, and the sanitation. They didn't have none of that out here until Houston annexed it in 1929. But the town got started and it was registered in the state of Texas in 1915. And as you can see, all of this is being redone. All of this used to be blacks. And as you can see, they got high rises going up out here too. And all of this is part of Independency Heights. And Independency Heights went all the way back as far as Yale. And then a lot of other blacks got moved out of Independency Heights when they built I-45. Two freeways knocked out at least 250 homes and black residents out here in Independence Heights. That's when they built 610 Loop and they built I-45 North. Okay, when they built them freeways in the 60s and late 50s, we're really in the 60s, a lot of black homes have to be deleted. Have to be deleted. And right now, we're coming up on Airline. Okay, that's what we're trying to get to Airline, because that was always part of Independency Heights. And those are the people that lived on the other side of Airline. Those were the people whose homes got knocked out, were blacks that used to be in Independency Heights. Those homes got knocked out to make room for I-45. welcome everybody to Independence Heights. And the name Studewood, really, from what I understood, it came because when the city put a bus line out here, it was called the 44 Studewood bus. And everybody came out here in Independence Heights, they would have to catch that bus. And instead of them calling it Independence Heights, they would always say, well, I'm going to Studewood because that's where the bus went. That's what was the name of the bus. Okay, now right up here is Airline. Now a lot of black homes back over here in Independence Heights was knocked out when they built I-45. Because right on the other side is I-45 and a lot of homes are knocked out. And right now, we're going down Airline because we're going back down North Main. But all of this was considered as Independence Heights. And all of this was a black town. And in fact, it was the first black city in the state of Texas. And we're going to turn down here on East 32nd and a half. All of this was part of Independence Heights. All right, we're going down here. We're going to go down East 32nd Street. Because East 32nd Street, it runs into North Main, and it also runs into Airline. And that's where we're going back down East 32nd Street. And this is the original Independence Heights. Because they was independency. They did not depend on the other heights, which was part of Houston. They had their own police chief. They had their mayor, which was George Burgess. And they had a police chief, and they also had a fire department out here. All of this was black owned. And some of these are some old houses that was in the 50s. And even in the 40s, that was out here in Independence Heights. And welcome everybody to Independence Heights. And we're on East 32nd, heading toward North Main. And remember, I told you, North Main was where all the black businesses were. Your lawyers, your doctors, and a lot of shoe shine parlors where a lot of people used to get their shoes shined, and they don't get that done no more. Shoe shine parlors, barbershop, beauticians, everybody, if it was anything that needs to be found in Independence Heights, you better believe it, it was on North Main. And that's where we're headed to now. We are on East 32nd, heading towards North Main. And all of this is part of Independence Heights. And as you can see, all of these houses are some houses back in the 50s and the 40s. This is the original Independence Heights that we're in, right here on 32nd and Carnell. Heading up towards the next major intersection will be North Main. And all of this, and as you can see, there's 610 over there. I told you, they took a lot of homes out of this black community in this black city. But by the time 610 came through here, Houston had already annexed Independence Heights. And this is another street called Macomb. Now, we're going to turn left here on Macomb, and I'm going to show you what 610 took a lot of black homes out here in Independence Heights. See, all up there was 610. Well, all back there where you see them cars traveling, all that used to be black homes, and black people stayed back up in there. And when they finished 610 in the early 60s, a lot of blacks had to move out. And blacks started moving out in the late 50s. But by the 60s, when they finished 610 in the early 70s, blacks had already moved out. And Independence Heights, which was once a black city, and like I said, they Houston annexed, and it was always part of Harris County. Now we turning down North Main, y'all. And as you can see, these are the churches. These are old churches. True Light Missionary Baptist Church. That's an old church, man. All of this is old back in here, baby. This is the original here, baby. Like I said, on North Main, all the black businesses are gone, but all the black churches are still here. North Main Church. And right up here is Ebenezer Church. See, as you can see, all of this was in Independence Heights. And right up in here was the courthouse in the city of Independence Heights. And then right up here was one of the big churches out here in Independence Heights. And all of this was part of the black businesses and the black business section here in Independence Heights. And as you cross over this railroad track, and then in 1958, Booker T. Washington downtown, they needed to have a place out here for these kids out here in Independence Heights to go to school. And Booker T. Washington was so close to 3rd Ward and Jack Gates, they decided to move it out here to Independence Heights for the kids out here to go to school. But before then, all of these kids had to go to Phyllis Wheatley. That's right. It wasn't no other school for them to go up until 1958 when HISD bought in Booker T. Washington. And we're going to turn right here on East 40th and a half, and we're going to pass by the original Booker T. Washington, which HISD bought and already had the property out here in Independence Heights. That's why they moved it out here. And they did not move it on the other side of Yale, because on the other side of Yale was for white folks. That's why they moved it out here on East 39th. All of this is the new Booker T. Washington, everybody. And as we say, congratulations to Booker T. Washington. Eagles. They beat Jack Gates last night in basketball. All of this is part of Independence Heights. And what used to be a black neighborhood, and it started off as a black village, and then it moved into a black city. And then later on, when Houston annexed it, it became a black neighborhood. But this is where the original Booker T. Washington, when they moved it out here in 1958. This is where it was at, right here on 39th. And as anything else, all HISD is trying to make all of their schools on main drags. And East 39th is not a main drag. That's the reason why when they built the new Booker T. Washington, they want to make it on Yale Street. Just like they did Jack Gates, pulled it off of Samson and bought it on Alabama. Just like Worthing, they took it off of Reed Road and bought it on Scott. And just like Phyllis Wheatley, they took it off of Market and they bought it on Providence. And just like Cashmere, they took it off of Hirsch Road and they moved it out there to Trinity Garden. And right now we are on Yale. And like on this side of Yale was for whites. And on this side, that's the reason why they built Booker T on this side, because HISD had already owned this property when they decided to make a new Booker T. Washington. All of this is part of the new Booker T. Washington. Now, like I say, on the other side of Yale have always been for whites only, but now since we're integrated, you know, we all mixed now. We all as one. Okay, right here is where on 43rd, the Independence Heights, which was the Studewood bus, which was the 44, way before Acres Home had their own bus service. And the Studewood bus would come, which was the 44 Studewood, they would come all the way up here to 43rd and go down Yale and come back down Yale to North Main and head back downtown. That was the route that the 44 Studewood bus went. Acres Home had their own bus service, and they had their own bus service was owned by blacks in Acres Home. But when the Houston annexed just in 1929 out here in Independence Heights, they bought them the bus service out here along with public water and sanitation and gas. But all of this was always black businesses up and down North Main here. And you're on North Main and 40th and a half. All of this was part of Independence Heights. As we live right here. Now we're gonna go down a street called East 38th Street, which should be one street before the railroad track. Well, it's East 37th Street, and I take it back. East 37th and a half. A good friend of mine named Chris Stevenson. This is how I wound up coming to Booker T. Washington. All right, everybody, welcome out here to Independence Heights. Boy, we hadn't did this in a long time, man. And we're coming down here on 37th Street. Now, this is how Independence Heights used to look. See how narrow these streets are? See that? And see how these streets weren't curved out like they are now. But that's how they used to look, just like this. And up here on this corner was a good friend of mine named Chris Stevenson. And his daddy was Big Jack. And his cousin was part of Booker T. Washington, and they call him Bay Bunny. And some of you people who went to Booker T. Washington during the 60s, y'all know Bay Bunny, or y'all heard of Bay Bunny, because he was well known, supposed to be calling the security guard over there. Then Mr. Wesley had him hanging around the school park. Okay, all of this was part of Independence Heights. See how the houses look? All of those are the old houses that was part of Independence Heights. And as you can see, these are the new ones that they're building up out here in Independence Heights. And now one thing about you guys to let y'all know, we're going down the bus line of how the actually 44 Studewood bus would go. It would run down Travis, all the way down Travis to Washington Avenue, all the way down Washington Avenue to Heights Boulevard. And then go down Heights Boulevard and it catches up with North Main. And it comes all the way down North Main to East 39th. And it would take a right there on East 39th, which was Booker T. Washington. And it'll go down to the 43rd. It didn't go as far as Yale. It went down to 43rd and it made a U-turn and came back down North Main. Okay, all of this is part of Independence Heights. And right over there used to be the original Booker T. Washington Junior and Senior High School right there, you guys. And it went from the 7th to the 12th grade. And as you can see, these are the new homes out here in Independence Heights. And all of this property used to be part of Booker T. Washington, and it's still part of Booker T. Washington. Look at that beautiful baseball field they got here. Oh man, they got it fixed up, man. And Booker T. Washington is a school of engineering, by the way, in case you want to know. And all of this is Linden and 39th, which the bus would come all the way down 39th to Yale and then make a right on Yale and go down to 43rd and go down 43rd to North Main and come back down North Main, headed back downtown for the people in Independence Heights. And the city of Houston gave them that bus. That was their bus. That's right. It was the city of Houston bus, but Rapid Transit, which was then what we call today as Metro, but Rapid Transit and Houston made that bus route just for the people out here in Independence Heights. And they call it the 44 Studewood. And later on, when Houston annexed Acres Home, the bus no longer went through Independence Heights. It went all the way through to Acres Home. And that was the first city Houston bus line that went to Acres Home. That's why Mayor Turner and them called it the Popo, because that was the first city bus to come to Acres Home. Before then, Acres Home had their own bus service, which was owned by blacks. And all of this is part of Independence Heights. And we're gonna turn right here on the 35th Street. And see, they would have barbershops up and down here. Just like you see that barbershop there, they would have barbershops. And next door to the barbershop, you would see beauty shops. And then you would see tailoring shops. Black businesses was all up and down North Main. If you wanted anything, if it wasn't on North Main, it wasn't out here in Independence Heights to go and find. And evidently, you need to go to the Heights. Well, most people went to grocery shop. In fact, over on East 14th, they called a store Studewood Food Market on Heights Boulevard and East 14th. But right now, we in Independence Heights. See, all these gonna be high rises eventually. All of these houses back in here, they're gonna tear them down too, like that. That'll be showdown. They waiting on the owner, whoever owned the property, waiting on their kids to die. And cause the taxes are already high out here, are they getting to be high because this land is valuable. Welcome everybody to Independence Heights. We going down here. Remember I told you when 610 came through here and knocked out over 200 some black families out of here in Independence Heights. Out of 610 here and I-45 on the other side of Independence Heights, we had pretty close to over 250 black families had to relocate. And as we go down here, and we're down a street called Colandt, C-O-L-A-N-D-T. Now, you know, I just do the history, y'all. I wasn't really raised up out here, but I knew I used to swim against a lot of people that's out here. And by the way, when we were doing at East 31st and a half, okay, and we're gonna take it right here on East 31st and a half to show you the East 31st and a half. Most of these streets ran from North Main to Yale. And some of the other streets ran from North Main to Airline. But all of this is original Independence Heights. See how the ditches right there? It's the way we used to have. We didn't have curved streets. Yeah, you back up in one of them ditches, man, have a wrecker to come get you out. Yeah, all of this is part of the original Independence Heights. And as you can see, and right up here should be Yale. And welcome everybody to the Independence Heights. And like I told you, on the other side of Yale was white people. Blacks did not cross on the other side of Yale.